Hi everybody, welcome along to another episode of the Dispatches podcast. My name is Brendan Malone. It is great to be back with you again, and today we're going to be talking about euthanasia and assisted suicide. A couple of different stories that I have been meaning to get to over the last, well, I was going to say over the last week or so, but it actually goes a bit further back than that, all the way back to June, one of these stories, and I thought it seemed appropriate to do a bit of a roundup and a bit of an update to talk about these. Two of these stories, as you can probably imagine, are, well, they're horrific, really. And they speak to a great cultural moral decline, moral malaise, and a general disintegrating anthropology in regard for the human person and human dignity and how we structure our laws and other things like that in our societies. The other one, though, is actually a positive development, and hopefully it brings about some good fruit, and it pertains to something that's happening in Canada. Let's start with the first of these stories, and the first of these involves none other than this chap here, Dr. Philip Nitschke, Australia's Dr. Death, and I'll read to you from the article. Once again, this is the guy who was involved in the sarcopods, you know, these sort of dystopian space pod looking thing that you climb into and the hood closes over and you self-terminate in this pod, among other things. This guy has an unbelievably checkered history. And if you've been following his trajectory and his behaviour for as long as I have now, you will know that this is a classic example of how a lot of the most diehard and committed, no pun intended, but the most diehard and committed of pro-euthanasia advocates have a very troubling psychology and pathology that I might even be tempted to throw around words like psychopathic or sociopathic to describe some of the stuff. But this is one character who absolutely fits that particular mould. Let's have a read of what he's proposing now. The inventor of the Sarco gas chamber assisted suicide pod, Dr. Philip Nitschke, has announced the creation of a kill switch implant for people with dementia that would automatically release a lethal substance into the user's body once they stop responding to daily prompts. So in other words, you'd have this device permanently implanted in your system. Now, by the way, don't think, oh, this is just Fantasyland stuff. It's just, you know, him drawing up his weird macabre wish list. It's actually a bit further along than that. Nitschke, who is nicknamed Dr. Death and the Elon Musk of assisted suicide, I don't know who's calling him that, but probably he's calling himself that, has told the Mail Online that his kill switch implant is nearing the test phase. So when you say test phase, who exactly is going to be the guinea pig who's going to be subjected to this madness? Like, even if you're pro-euthanasia, you were talking about a device that poses very serious risks, let alone the ethical issues embroiled in this. So who's going to be the guinea pig, and how exactly are you going to test this in a way that even, again, if you're pro-euthanasia, that would even qualify for being remotely ethical in the testing regime. Nitschke, who's nicknamed Dr. Death and the Elon Musk of assisted suicide, has told the Mail Online that his kill switch implant is nearing the test phase. The device would be sewn into the patient's body, most likely in their leg, and set to beep and vibrate daily to warn the patient to turn it off. If a patient's dementia becomes so advanced that they ignore the beeping and vibrations, the mechanism would then release a currently unknown lethal substance into their body. Nitschke said, "You won't forget to press it otherwise, because after the time comes, it'll start beeping and buzzing. If you really don't know what this thing is doing, beeping and buzzing for a week, I think you've lost a lot of capacity. If you don't know the risks that are involved by not acting, that is, that you will die, then you're getting your wish from when you had it implanted." The pro-suicide campaigner believes his kill switch could solve the so-called dementia dilemma. There is no dementia dilemma, by the way, for normal, humane, caring people. It's only a dilemma for people who want to engage in the deliberate killing of patients, by the way. The situation whereby someone suffering from the disease is seen as lacking the mental capacity to consent to their death. So you see the dilemma here? They can't give consent to something someone else wants to do to them. And so this is seen as a dilemma. Normal people recognize this as a person who is in a very serious state of infirmity that needs our care and love. There's no dilemma there. The dilemma is, am I caring enough? Am I a humane and virtuous enough person to give this person the care they deserve? That's the dilemma we grapple with, not How do we deal with the fact that, we want to give them a lethal injection, but they can't give consent to it? And you realize when you think about that as a dilemma, you go, really the dilemma is weighted not in the column of the person who suffers from dementia. It's from the people outside who are looking on, who want to actually do the administering of the lethal injection. Now, there's so much that's just absolutely astounding about this and obscene when you think about it. Like I said, even if you're pro-euthanasia, surely you can see the absurdity and the risks embroiled in all of this. There are a lot of reasons why. Well, let's say, for example, first of all, you have a malfunction. What if the device doesn't beep and buzz like you're claiming it does? I mean, everything that is electronic that's a device, everything that is mechanical or electronic or software-driven, there is the chance of fault, of failure, of things not functioning as they should. So a person is getting warned, but because remember, this is the inhumanity of this, that the radical autonomy of this perverse ideology and how it plays out in the world. It's not like they would be visiting these people every day to check on them. This is basically comfort speed killing. They do the process from afar. And so, they think they're helping, they're sending signals, they're assuming the machine's working because it seems to be working. And so the person at the other end's not getting any of the warnings though. And for whatever reason, the thing's not working as it should. And then, hey presto, they get killed by a lethal injection from afar. Or let's say there's user error. Or let's say that there is operator error at the other end in the control room, whoever's doing this macabre, Orwellian, dystopian thing of ending patient lives from afar. Or I guess the device does it automatically, right? But who's monitoring all of this? Who's overseeing it? Let's say you've got some nefarious characters embroiled in this who decide to interfere with someone's device in some way or other. There is so much that is obscene about this. What about a situation where someone actually, it's not their dementia, they just become suicidal because of a lack of care and support, and so they just ignore all of the signals, and then they have one of these speedily administered death from afar. A machine kills them effectively. Or what about a situation where someone misses the cues, or maybe there's something that develops within their body, they don't feel the sensations. There could be any number of reasons why this would be absolutely obscene. And as I said, how do you account for the testing phase and all of this? This is, again, just the perversity of Dr. Philip Nitschke. And the longer he goes on, the more and more what he's really doing is he's telling on himself. He's exposing to the world that his ideology and the way in which he purveys this ideology, it's truly perverse. It's obscene. It is, to me, it's reminiscent of a previous Dr. Death, and that was none other than the American Dr. Death, Dr. Jack Kevorkian, who apparently had a penchant for, among other things, Hitler's artworks, and visiting patients even when he was this is an intern, and even when he wasn't rostered on, he would, if someone was dying on the ward, apparently it was not unusual for him to turn up just to watch the person die. And this is that kind of level of obscenity and perversity, and there's something truly diabolical in all of this. Your disregard for human life is such that, at this point, I don't think you can claim, I'm being compassionate. You're trying to find the speediest, most efficient way to kill people. This is what this is. This is not about dignity anymore. This is about expediency. So, yeah, Dr. Philip Nitschke, lots that we could say about that, and lots that's obviously obscene and wrong about this. And this is his latest, you sort of get the feeling. I was talking to a friend of mine, she's a nurse recently, and I was talking to her about this. She's a nurse all the time, not just recently, but she is a nurse. And I was talking to her about this recently, and you sort of get the sense that really it's about Philip Nitschke. This is about him, I'm the Elon Musk of killing people. Look at my latest, diabolical satanic scheme, and he's getting a lot of notoriety off the back of it, and it's not a good thing at all. The second story, again, not a great news story in this case either, but this one involves a family who this is an Irish family who were embroiled in a situation that is just truly horrific. Let me read to you from the article. This was published last week. A family has said they were devastated to learn of their mother's assisted suicide via a WhatsApp message from a Swiss clinic, which also informed them that her ashes would arrive by post. Again, this is the macabre perversity of what this is producing in the world. Maureen Slough, 58, from Cavan, Ireland, travelled to Pegasus Clinic, remember that name, we'll talk about them in just a second, in Basel on the 8th of July, reportedly telling relatives she was going on holiday to Lithuania. By the way, this is not the first time this has happened either, which would suggest that there is actually, because I've had another controversial case where a young man did something similar and he told the same sort of story, but went to their clinic. So it seems conceivable that they've got a script and they tell people how to lie to their family. This is not unusual for these groups, by the way. Again, if you've been following their trajectory, you will know this is a kind of repeat pattern. They give advice to people about how to break laws or how to do this or how to hide what they're actually doing from their family. None of this is, like, again, even if you're pro-euthanasia, none of this is ethical. None of this screams, yes, this is humane and healthy and dignified, when you're saying, don't tell your family and here's how to lie to your family about what's going on. This screams of nefarious, underhanded behaviour. 2 days later, her daughter Megan Royal received a message stating that her mother had died while listening to gospel music sung by Elvis Presley. The family says handwritten goodbye letters from Maureen arrived only weeks later, and Pegasus returned the ashes by post. But apparently, my friends, this is what qualifies as a dignified death. See, what's going on here is that the sense of what a death is and what dignified means is being lost in all of this. It assumes that it's solely about the wishes and desires of an individual. It fails to recognise that death is a communal and familial event, and that the dignity of a person's death is not just about them, it's about the whole family and it's about the whole community and how it impacts them. And we just don't even talk about that in this issue. The family claims they had no knowledge of her intentions despite her naming Megan as next of kin. And again, this is quite conceivable the way these places operate. Ms. Slough had long struggled with mental illness, having attempted suicide a year earlier following the deaths of her two sisters. So just get your head around this for a second. Here's someone who has actually lost two sisters in close succession. She's tried to take her own life, and here she is now being aided by this Pegasus facility, which I'm assuming she's like the other cases. They charge you somewhere in the vicinity of, it's about $15,000, I think, US dollars for the privilege of ending your life. This is exploitative behaviour. Her brother Philip, a UK solicitor, said Maureen had provided the clinic with letters of complaint to medical authorities in Ayr, that's back in Ireland, in respect of bogus medical conditions, which Pegasus allegedly used to support her application. So they've lied here if this is true. She reportedly paid £13,000 for the procedure. That's a lot of New Zealand dollars. Pegasus claims it received a letter from Megan acknowledging her mother's plans and later confirmed its authenticity via email. Megan denies writing the letter or verifying it, alleging her mother may have forged both the letter and the email address. She told the Irish Independent they should not have allowed her to make that decision on her own. This group did not contact me. And it's quite believable. Like, what reason would you have to lie about this?